Everyone knows about the Winter Olympics, but very few talk about the Paralympic winter sports. Despite being a sporting event for physically impaired athletes, Paralympics also includes some of the most dangerous sports. In this video, we'll tell you about the riskiest winter Paralympic sports, so hold on tight and watch this video till the end. Alpine skiing. Skiing itself is an inherently dangerous and risky sport, and even professional athletes without any physical impairments spend a considerable chunk of their lives mastering the art of rocketing down the icy mountain patches, all while wearing a helmet and a skin-tight skiing suit. But what is the difficulty level when the skier is required to perform the same efficiency but without one or both legs or eyes? We believe that the victory must be much sweeter for these physically impaired skiers, and that's something we love to watch. The Alpine events are typically divided into unique sets of challenges, and even visually impaired skiers participate in this sport. What makes it dangerous is that a physically impaired athlete can lose control at any time, which is why it requires extremely hard work and focus on staying safe while skiing and winning the game. For the skiers who cannot see properly, there's a guide skier in front of them who keeps telling them about the challenges coming ahead with the help of a wireless device fit in their helmets. Not just that, these athletes are divided into groups depending on the severity of their blindness, and every one of them competes the race. For the athletes who are missing a limb but can still stand, the sport is much simpler to the one played by able-bodied athletes, but depending on which limb they're missing, these athletes receive handicap points. Lastly, the ones who can't stand at all participate in sitting alpine events. Being physically impaired doesn't mean that the sport becomes more accessible for these athletes. Just so you know, an able-bodied athlete goes as fast as 8 miles per hour, while Paralympic skiers almost never go under the speed of 70 miles per hour. That should be enough to explain how difficult and dangerous Paralympic skiing is. Para-ice hockey. Para-ice hockey is a direct descendant of ice hockey and was invented during the early 1960s by a group of physically impaired Swedes at a rehabilitation center in Stockholm. These people modified a metal frame sled and 2 regular-sized skate blades to allow the puck to pass underneath. Just like the regular ice hockey can cause severe injury, para-ice hockey can do the same as well. We say this because for both able-bodied and physically impaired hockey games, the same equipment and rules are followed. The game is almost the same, and that's how the injuries caused while playing this game can also be the same. On several occasions, physically impaired athletes were identified with minor to severe concussions and muscle strains. As per the studies, this game is majorly harmful to the upper area of a physically impaired athlete more than the lower body. But just like any other game, para-ice hockey players also love being the ones to play it to its fullest. Even if it's dangerous, their passion for the sport doesn't let them give up on it. Wheelchair curling. Wheelchair curling only made its debut in the Paralympics in 2006, and since then, fans have watched athletes participating in this game get some severe injuries. Wheelchair curling can cause serious spinal cord injuries, especially to those who've already been subject to such an injury or paralysis. Some incidents of elbow breaking and shoulder misplacement have also been reported, but once again, athletes with multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, double leg amputation, and spinal cord injuries have been a part of wheelchair curling from the very start, and they don't look at it as a dangerous sport. Instead, it's kind of a lifesaver for most of them. Today, both men and women take part in wheelchair curling, and the sport is practiced in 24 countries in the world. Even though it's a dangerous sport, many are passionate about playing it, and that's what matters the most. Snowboarding. Thanks to the group of snowboarders whose determination brought this sport to the Paralympic Winter Games, today snowboarding is famous in Paralympic sports like skiing and wheelchair curling. Despite its popularity and several physically and visually impaired athletes participating in this game every year, snowboarding isn't a very safe sport either. Just like skiing, it also requires extreme balancing skills, which can be difficult for Paralympic athletes. Falls while snowboarding can cause severe injuries and trauma, but that doesn't make the athletes lose their passion for the sport. In 2015, the first ever IPC Snowboard World Championships were held in La Molina, Spain. Here, both lower limb impaired and upper limb impaired athletes competed for world titles. Athletes practice agility and speed all together and compete in 3 different categories, which are totally based on their physical abilities and level of impairment. Biathlon. A combination of target shooting and cross-country skiing, biathlon is another risky winter Paralympic sport. It requires the athlete to have both accurate accurate shooting skills, and physical stamina. Not only do athletes with physical disabilities take part in this sport, but visually impaired athletes also make a major part of this game's players. There are 12 divisions for physically impaired athletes and 3 divisions for visually impaired ones. Regardless of their division, all the athletes compete while keeping almost the same rules and regulations under consideration. One thing, however, is different for visually impaired athletes. They are allowed to compete while using acoustic signals, and the intensity of these signals depends on whether the athlete is able to stay on target or not. Some other dangerous Paralympic sports. Para-running. Looks simple, right? Just some physically impaired athletes running their wheelchairs. Well, it's not so simple. Athletes tend to go beyond their limits when it comes to winning a sport. A famous example of such a situation is Montejo Mitchell, the US runner who refused to stop or even slow down when he felt one of his legs break while halfway through an Olympic relay race. Keep in mind that he is an able-bodied athlete. What about a physically impaired athlete who has already injured themselves before? As per studies, Paralympic participants tend to work so hard when racing that they actually subject their spinal cords to severe damage. There have even been incidences where wheelchair runners broke their toes with hammers. Yes, you heard that right. For a person whose lower body is paralyzed, breaking the toes wouldn't hurt. However, it does make the body uncomfortable and increases blood pressure, which these athletes use as a boost when on the racing track. That is genuinely crazy. Wheelchair rugby, aka murder ball. After skiing comes to the second most dangerous Paralympic game, and what is wheelchair rugby? It's so dangerous that it's often referred to as murder ball. Quite a creepy nickname that is. Not only is it dangerous, but it's also the most famous one. One proof of its popularity is that the arena of 12,000 capacity was sold out for every wheelchair rugby match at the Paralympics. This relentlessly tactical and fast game is also pretty loud because it's impossible for the players to stop their wheelchairs from clanging into each other. Aaron Phillips, a member of the GB squad, said that he thinks people love to watch these athletes smash each other out of their wheelchairs, and we think he's right about this. Most people wonder why an athlete who has already injured himself would play such a dangerous game again. Well, the wheelchair rugby players have a different opinion about it. These Paralympic athletes believe that this game excites them, and they love how fast and aggressive the sport is. The only similarities that this game shares with its able-bodied counterpart are the scoring method, carrying a ball over a line, and obviously its name. Otherwise, the rules and regulations for this game have been modified. All participants of wheelchair rugby are divided into groups depending on the level of physical restriction they face. This physical restriction is measured 0.5 to 3.5. Why are the Winter Paralympic Games so important? Basically, this multi-sport event was specifically designed for the injured soldiers who returned from World War II. They used these sports as a path towards healing. However, later the purpose changed, and many other athletes started participating in these sports. The truth is that for decades, many athletes who ended up getting spinal injuries or other issues used to give up on their dream of winning medals in Olympic Games. But was this right? Not really. Paralympics allow athletes with physical disabilities to keep up with their dreams and provide them with a suitable platform to show off their talent. The Paralympic Games was actually the very first platform to use almost the same resource as the Olympics, but for physically impaired athletes. Both Summer and Winter Paralympic Games have their own importance, and athletes from all over the world participate in these sports. Even though advances in these games were slow, this slow progress somehow managed to become one of the most important multi-sport events after the Olympics. While everyone tends to underestimate Paralympic sports, the athletes participating in these games prove that nothing in this world comes easily. These sports require as much talent and hard work as any able-bodied sport does, and we hope you would have understood it as well. Let us know what you think about the Winter Paralympics in the comments below. We'll be back with more amazing content soon. Till next time, goodbye.